Hi everyone, welcome to the Enthusiastic Buddhist. In this video, I'd like to answer a question that was left for me in the comments of one of my videos. Michael wrote and asked me, Minda, could you possibly do a video on how Buddhism views people with disabilities? Is it karma or something else? Some in the Christian church lay a lot of guilt and blame on people who have conditions that are essentially beyond their control. I've heard about blind children in Tibet becoming outcast from their Buddhist families. This was covered in the documentary Blind Sight, and I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say about the subject. Thanks for this question, Michael. This is certainly a very challenging topic and one that usually has some very strong emotions attached to it. And it's probably not a question that many Buddhists want to try and answer, but I'm going to have a go at answering it, and hopefully I might shed some new light on this topic, as well as share some of the things that I think are missing when people talk about this issue. The first thing I want to stress is that karma is not a personal law of retribution. It's simply a law of cause and effect. I mean, if we were to take the law of gravity, for instance, gravity doesn't have any personal feelings towards us. And if we were to jump off a building, the natural outcome is that we're probably going to fall to the ground and hurt ourselves. It's not that gravity doesn't like us or that gravity is being unkind. We know that it's simply working according to its natural law, and so we don't take it personally, right? Well, in the same way, the law of karma is a universal law that simply means a consequence will arise once a cause has been created. And this doesn't necessarily mean that just one cause equals one equivalent result. The fruits that arise from our karmic actions are affected by countless other new karmas that we create, as well as other attributing factors. So we can never attribute blame solely to one thing for the conditions arising now. In fact, it's a pointless exercise trying to understand why a particular karma might have ripened the way it has. The Buddha actually called karma one of the four imponderables. Basically, it's something only a fully enlightened being can understand. So trying to analyze our own karma isn't necessarily going to be helpful, and it isn't something that we should even speculate about. Instead, what really matters is how we respond to our current situation and circumstances. Now, it's quite often that people label the idea of karma as not compassionate, and they often rule it out on this basis alone. But karma is an impersonal process. There's no judgment involved here. The problem is that people have come to believe that karma means you get what you deserve. But that's a terrible way to understand and explain karma. Karma is a law of cause and effect, meaning from any action, a result will follow. But now you see, even in our daily lives, there are videos titled things like "Thief Gets Instant Karma," where you might see a thief on his motorbike grab someone's bag, then speed off and hit some oncoming traffic and fall off his bike. So the title of the video, "Thief Gets Instant Karma," implies that they're getting punished and that they should be punished for their actions. So instead of responding to any and all events with a compassionate mind and recognizing that all suffering is just a result of our previous mistaken behavior, instead we're like, yeah, payback, he got what he deserved. So the problem is that we've attributed blame here, and we've made it personal. We've made karma some kind of revenge idea. I mean, these days you'll hear pop songs singing about karma, and they're saying things like, maybe you deserve it, or you're always going to get what you deserve. So it's other people and ourselves who have attached the idea that people with disabilities are somehow bad and are being punished, which of course gives karma a bad name and makes it an uncompassionate principle and something most of us aren't going to want to swallow. But if we take the idea of judgment and retribution out of it, then it's simply an impersonal consequence to an impersonal cause. I mean, the Christians have that saying, "As you sow, so shall you reap," which when you look at it is the same as karma. It's the law of cause and effect. You sow a seed and a tree grows, provided it has the necessary conditions. So if you say, as you sow, so shall you reap, there's no malice, it's simply a statement of fact. But the problem is the way we now say it. People don't say it in a neutral way. People say it with aversion and attitude, like, well, as you sow, so shall you reap. We've added this nastiness to it, especially if we happen to be suffering and we want others to suffer as well. But then, of course, that just springs from a mind that's filled with hatred, which doesn't reflect the true nature of karma whatsoever. Another problem about karma, and one that gets overlooked, I think, is the problem that we take it personally because of our attachment to self. For instance, if we have a disability and we start labelling ourselves as a bad person, and if others even give rise to the slightest idea that we're somehow lesser than them, or that we as an independent being deserve that suffering, then that's completely wrong and unnecessary. We've all then just fallen into the biggest trap of ignorance because of our attachment to grasping to some permanent self that must have created that past karma. We forget that the person experiencing the results now is not the same self that created that seed in the first place. We're all constantly changing, so who can say that it's my karma or your karma or his or hers? Because when there is wisdom, we cannot apply these kind of labels of your karma, my karma, and so on, because the whole idea of a permanent inherent self goes against the foundational teachings of the Buddha's no-self doctrine. So if we're trying to stick impermanent labels and actions to impermanent selves, then where is the logic and compassion in that? The past self is not the same self that is experiencing the result now. There is some continuity, but it's not the same person. So to cling to anything is a mistake. To cling to good action or to cling to unwholesome actions are both a mistake. In many ways, we need to encourage ourselves to practice positive, wholesome action because that creates the circumstances for enlightenment. But everything needs to be let go of, including our good and bad actions. Basically, if we cling to any notion of ourselves as being an inherently bad person that's being punished for my bad karma in the past, then we're just solidifying that notion of self and losing touch with the here and now and the opportunity we have to make a difference to our present and our future. We really need to forget about the past and any notion of blame. If we've all had countless rebirths, then we've all done countless unwholesome things. Therefore, everyone is guilty as the next person. So who can judge who here? It's important that we don't place any blame on ourselves or others if unfavourable conditions are being experienced. And definitely, let's not feel arrogant if we happen to be experiencing positive conditions. For instance, if we think, oh, I'm enjoying very pleasant circumstances, I must have been such a good person in the past. Then again, we're grasping to a permanent self as well as our actions. And who knows when any of it will change? If we take the view of multiple lifetimes, then we're all guilty of having done unwholesome deeds in the past. So we're all going to experience suffering in one form or another. It's just a matter of time. But really, the big difference is how we interpret our struggles and those of others. And the best and only appropriate response to seeing others suffering is to feel compassion towards them. It should never be a process of judgment. So the moral of the story is that we should never add any element of judgment to karma, which in itself is an impersonal law. Don't make an impersonal law personal. And always try to use whatever conditions we or others experience as being a catalyst for understanding our shared humanity and common failings, and for being something that strengthens our compassion, not weakens it. Now, if we do find that we're guilty of sometimes finger pointing and attributing ideas of blame either to ourselves or others, then perhaps we can try mentally reciting the words, no self, no judgment. And just let your mind open up and become more expansive. No self, no judgment. If we can say this to ourselves whenever we feel our mind narrowing its focus to some permanent I or other who has supposedly done something bad to warrant their current suffering, then reflecting on this, no self, no judgment, it might help free us from clinging to these labels of my, your, good and bad. And then from that place of mental peace and stillness, a natural expression of compassion will be able to arise. So that's all from me. I know this is a topic that can sometimes be quite controversial and everyone will have their own opinion about it. I mean, I haven't even touched on the fact that for some people, having or knowing someone with a disability might be an incredible gift and an opportunity to open hearts, accept generosity, and to practice it. So who is to say what is good and bad karma when you're the one who's actually creating a positive reality from it? Anyway, hopefully I've opened up a few new ways of looking at this complex topic of karma. Remember, you can check out my website, enthusiasticbuddhist.com, for more teachings on Buddhism and meditation. So take care everyone, have a great week, and I hope to see you in the next video.